Drive. Today we drive the most powerful 4-cylinder Mercedes-AMG Sedan in the world at the Buddh International Circuit. Check out the BMW i5 Sedan and you get a short look at the VLF Tennis 1500W electric scooter. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I am Soini Dutt. The 2024 Mercedes-AMG C63 SE performance has everyone talking, and that's simply because Mercedes has decided to replace the traditional V8 with a 2-litre 4-cylinder hybrid powertrain. Now, this has done nothing to diminish the power. In fact, power is up at 680 PS and 1020 Newton meters of torque. So how does this translate to on a racetrack? Let's find out at the Buddh International Circuit in Greater Noida.
Now, when you think of a C63 AMG, the first thing that comes to mind is a raging V8 that will dominate the entire experience. But as you might already know, this Mercedes-AMG C63 SE performance, that very long name aside, hides an incredibly complex hybrid powertrain underneath it. But before we get down to driving, a short tech lesson is needed. From a V8, the new C63 now packs a 4-cylinder plug-in hybrid powertrain. But this is slightly misleading, since it now puts out a maximum system output of 680 PS and over 1000 Newton meters, although you only get this figure in certain drivetrain conditions. The 4-cylinder in question is the Manic M139 motor from the A45, placed longitudinally and reworked with a massive electric turbocharger, improved cooling and internals to make it the most powerful 4-pot in the world with 476 PS and 545 Newton meter, paired with the 9-speed MCT. Working with this is an electric motor that makes up to 204 PS and 320 Newton meters, fed by a 6.1 kWh battery pack. But unlike most hybrids, this motor's main function is to assist the engine rather than improving efficiency. So at any time you have electric power on tap. The electric motor powers the rear wheels along with the IC, but both can also send power to the front when needed via the all-wheel drive system. There's a separate 2-speed gearbox for the E-motor. This is an especially complex system that monitors drive parameter to supply anywhere between 25 to 80% of its electric power at all times, with 100% power coming up in the launch and boost modes. Now, just to show you the amount of tech that's on board, there's this something called boost strategy, which I'll explain to you. This uses the TrackPace app that you have in AMG cars with its timing functions for racetracks to optimize performance from the electric motor. All you really need to do is have the file from your racetrack downloaded onto the car. It then chooses 2 profiles based on your preference, either a hot lap or an endurance setting, which again manages the electric motors in 2 different ways. So what that was it uses the electric motor to know exactly, say example at the BIC, where it should deploy all of its 680 PS, and it tells you on the screen, kick down right now, and that's where you'll get all the performance. Now the first thing that you notice is that it's not very quiet. Yes, it doesn't have that big bellowing sound of a V8, that big sense of presence of a V8, but this is not a quiet car, or this is not a car that you might be afraid that you will not have enough attention. It does make quite a racket around you, especially on the inside with all the piped-in audio, and in the race mode as we are right now in. It's a car as loud as you would want it to be. Like I've said earlier with the A45 too, you might think on first glance, looking at the numbers, that this 4-cylinder will be very unruly, rough, considering how energy dense, how power heavy it is. You might feel that it might be a bit difficult to tame, but again, you notice that it's very linear, smooth. There's really very little in the way of you knowing that there's turbo. Like, of course, this engine, we always know that it just keeps pulling. It has that really sharp, high-end performance. But the way this electric motor works is also really quite nice. Like, for example, right now, you've noticed that it will work very closely with the IC motor and just fill in all the torque gaps. So what that means is you have the very clear linear performance all the time. So pretty much there's a whole load of power or torque available to you at all times. Yes, it won't give you that full 1020 Nm torque. At very rare occasions it will give you that, but always just managing itself very well. There's no waiting for the gearbox to kick down or the engine to be in its power band to give you a good shove of pace. Now this means that the C63 is shockingly good at powering out of corners or at maintaining momentum around the track, but it has brought with it a slightly distanced engagement with the car. You might worry at this time that the relentless top-end surge of a V8 can't possibly be replicated with a hybrid, but Mercedes has gotten quite close. We found that the C63 keeps pulling hard to over 200 kmph on the BIC's back straight. It has direct cell cooling, the 6.1 kilowatt battery pack. So what that does is, it's managing to keep the temperature of the battery at always 45 degrees, and that in turn means that it can charge and discharge very rapidly. For example, just driving around while I'm talking to you, it's just gone up to 100% charge. So which means that you have a charge port, but you really never need to use it often. And that really does help with that sense of performance. Again, it's very F1 derived. So just in the same way that an F1 engine always has electric power on tap, this one too has that. Here on track, this car manages its weight really quite well. Now with that all-wheel drive system and the variable geometry steering and the rear wheel steer that you have at the back, it's only 2.5 degrees, but it does its job. You notice that even at very high speeds, it's turning in so quickly, as you can see. Even when there's a lot of forces acting on it on the track, it's not running wide, it's not losing composure. The new C63 may look like a beefed up C-Class, but only for the second time in its history, it now carries a completely new front section. There's an 83mm wider track and a 10mm increase in wheelbase, all of which has gone into integrating the new powertrain. So there's a visibly more aggressive stance to it. This flat aggressive stance continues to the sides. Here the softer C-Class bodywork works well to give you that traditional cab rearward sedan look, although the Aero style 19-inch wheels could have amped up the sense more. The rear is relatively simple with a blacked out diffuser section and the quad exhaust motifs. The red highlighting and the added cladding seen here are part of the F1 edition cosmetic upgrade, but we'd skip those. Priced at Rs 1.95 crore, the Mercedes-AMG C63 SE Performance is a big step up in price over the last one. There's also the matter of this drivetrain being somewhat divisive among enthusiasts. It takes calibrating what you have traditionally expected from the C63, which may be too much for some. But look past this and you have a car that may be complex, but it sure is effective. It uses the latest tech to give you a natural, engaging feel from behind the wheel, which will scare you and make you grin in the way a performance car should.
Well, it's time to take our first break here on the show, but come right back because on the other side we tell you what's exciting about the BMW i5.